Okay, so here we are. This is probably by far the most important podcast I've ever done. Not that any of the other ones were important, but this one really, really is important. And I'm so happy to have been able to assemble the group of people that I have on here today. And so I'm just going to introduce you sort of as you appear on my Zoom screen here. So first of all, Eric Loader, who is VP and I believe a partner now in Elation. Elation Professional, known globally. They have offices all over the world who are all being impacted by this this thing right now.
For sure.
And
hey, Marcel.
So next we have John Featherstone, who is looking pretty today as usual.
It's just for you, baby.
John is, along with his partner Norm Schwab, is co-founder of Light Switch, which is a very important design firm that has been operating as long as I can remember. You know, and John, one of the reasons that I really wanted Mr. Featherstone on the call today was because he has been very vocal on social media, and anyone basically who will listen to him, he's had some very good insight on how to look at this virus and its impact on our industry, and that's important. John Wiseman, of course, is Senior VP of PRG, and is currently bored to death because John probably carries one of the busiest travel schedules of anyone I know in the industry, and is generally somewhere else in the world and hasn't been able to travel for the last couple of weeks. So
actually, I am traveling today. I'm posted up at Rancho Mirage.
I was going to say that looks like a hotel.
Yeah, it does look like a hotel.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm at a resort now, and I just walked out I was at the pool yesterday. I took my girl down here, and we were sitting at the pool, and the guy and there's literally nobody here.
Wow.
And I said to the guy, I said, "So you're going to be my slave for the next week?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Yes." And he said, "And by the way, I am so glad you guys came."
Oh, wow.
The heartfelt
Yeah.
from the guy. So I've been tipping the shit out of him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's...
I just want to say, if you think coronavirus is an existential threat, aboard John Wiseman is far more damaging.
The world doesn't want to see that shit. No.
Thank you, John.
We should start one of those online, these things that are going on for people signing petitions and stuff, but get John back to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got to start one of those. And then finally, Ben Saltzman, who is the CEO and owner of Act Lighting, a very large distributor, obviously, in this country for MA and Ayrton and a lot of other lines, severely impacted, obviously, by this coronavirus. And again, just another really smart guy. And this group of people, each of you, I've reached out to multiple times throughout my career and just kind of gauged feedback. And Wiseman I talk to 2 or 3 times a week, most weeks. Ben I talk to quite often. Eric I talk to a lot. I just think you're a really smart group of people. I appreciate you doing this. We've set some of our own ground rules, one of which is that we don't really want to get political, but we do want to talk a lot about the government, because the government plays a very important role, especially for our industry, which is, as we would all agree, probably one of, if not the most heavily impacted by this virus. And secondly, we're not going to talk over each other because everyone on this call loves to talk. And so first, I'd like to start with something, sort of an elephant in the room, for me anyways, is that I think each of the people on this podcast right now are in the middle of, or at the front end of, or even at the tail end of making, decisions, having conversations with your CFO, having conversations with your team, looking at your business and just wondering, how am I going to survive? And how is our company going to survive? And each of us is in a position where we have to have those discussions, not only with ourselves internally and with our heart, with our brain. And believe it or not, although, some people know how I vote, I'm pretty liberal when it comes to employees and people around me, and just being generous to people. So these are very difficult thoughts for me to have. I've been having discussions with some people on my team where I'm saying, well, I don't know if I can keep everyone employed. And they're going, so what are you saying? And I'm going, well, I'm not really saying anything. I'm just telling you that I'm thinking about this stuff, and I'm thinking about you and what your position is here and how we can, it's so hard to do. So what I'm trying to say is all of us are going through this very difficult time. I know that freelancers are going to listen to this and go, oh, you think you got it tough. I've lost all of my income. And I get that. And I'm not by any means saying, poor me, my problems are bigger than yours. We all have problems, and everyone in this industry is being impacted, from the very largest at PRG to the very smallest freelancer who used to carry somebody's tool bag to the gigs and was getting paid, $30 a day. That person's out of work too. So I just want to say, God help you all in your roles, because these are difficult times for us, for our employees, for our freelancers, for everyone. We are going to be asked by shareholders, by our CFO, by our spouses, by whoever it is. We're going to be asked to make some really, really tough decisions over the next couple of weeks, couple of months. And, I'm not a very religious guy, but I pray that you have the strength and that I have the strength to be able to make those decisions, and to be able to live with those decisions, and sleep well at night and everything else, because this is our job. This is not our, this is not our
it's not a job. This is a lifestyle.
Right. Yeah.
This is not a 9 to 5. We all live together. It
hell
makes
yeah.
it a little bit different,
Yeah.
We like, the people on this call I've spent numerous times, with, like when Featherstone and I were working together, in which we do off and on. It's not, hey, see you at the coffee pot and then goodbye at 5,
Yeah.
We all pull in the same direction. So.
Hey, John, not to make light of it or anything, but your throat sounds pretty bad. Are you sure you're not like a card-carrying member of the CV club here,
Dude, you know what I always say, Marcel? I do not get sick. I make people sick. Okay. I'm just fine.
One of those super carriers.
I'm actually trying to be respectful to the other people that are apparently not even in this hotel. So, yeah.
It's interesting you said that, John. Before we all started to do this social isolating, social distancing thing, we were at a barbecue with some friends a little while ago, last week. And there were a couple of guys there who were kind of the feeling that they were like, great, I'm going to get a couple of weeks off. This is awesome. I'm not going to have to go to work. One guy in manufacturing, another guy in the supply chain. That's not how any of us are. We all love to go to work. We love the people we work with.
Yeah.
We work in an amazing community. I'm gutted I'm not going to work. I thrive on being busy, and I think everybody here does. But the only way we're going to get through this is by doing it together. And nobody's problems are any bigger than anybody else's. I guarantee that the CEO of a company who's got 10 factories throughout the world, who's trying to keep a workforce of 500, is up at night every bit as much as the person that's just starting in the business, who's trying to figure out how to pay their rent on a studio apartment.
There's no doubt about it.
There's no scale to problems. Everybody has their problems. There's no saying, well, you're better off, you're worse off. We're all in this together. We're only going to get through this by pulling together. And frankly, by making some tough decisions. And that's what I think, the 5 people on this call all have in common, as well as the fact that we're all geezers of gear, and you can tell because we're all wearing glasses.
Well, yeah.
Well,
and you know what else to add to that, John, is that this is, I'm going to use a word that I hate, unprecedented. Okay. Yeah. There was the Black Plague, but there was no cell phone, the social media aspect of this, and the speed of information, the speed of misinformation, all of that kind of stuff is just, it's stunning how this is happening, and how fast it's going, and how the narrative changes moment to moment to moment. And you don't know, I don't care who the hell you are, you don't know what to believe. On one moment I'm like, okay, this is just bullshit, and then the next moment I'm like, holy smokes. Like I'm down in this resort not because I'm on some big vacation, I've got family down here that are in their late 90s. And so they're about 10 miles away, and we take them food and we wipe it all down, and we do all of that. And we're just trying to figure out what we can do and how we can do it right. And it's scary. It's
well,
scary.
One of our folks from our Toronto office is driving to Florida as we speak to pick up his grandparents and take them.
Oh my goodness!
Take them back to Toronto so that they can be closer to the family. Because how else are they going to get taken care of right now?
Yeah, no, it's a very
my
mother's in a home that was just closed today.
Oh,
so nobody can visit anymore, and
well, that's probably a good thing,
Well, it is and it
Caution.
isn't. I mean, tell that to my 3 sisters who are all going, "Oh shit, I haven't seen her yet this week. I feel terrible," and
have her stand at the fucking window.
Yeah.
I mean, really, this shit. I am not an alarmist. I'm not a guy that's just really afraid of anything. This doesn't scare me. What it does is it's mind numbing, because you can't see it. You can't put your army against it. You can't fight against it. You don't know what the hell it is. You just need to do. You need to do your best to just do nothing, and that's not our nature. This whole business is not our nature to just wait. Someone else will take care of it. That's not what we do.
So, I mean, if we could, let's first, we keep saying it. And, so obviously we're talking about COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, or as John calls it, the fucking virus. But, so that first let's talk about what we're faced with, some of the challenges. And so, one of the things I think that's frustrating to some of the people on the political spectrum is that every day the White House comes out with sort of a new strategy or a new level. And I look at that as basically no one on earth understands this thing or understands what is
everybody's winging this shit. They really are.
So as of right now, I believe we're now at limited of gatherings. You can't have gatherings over 10 people, or they're suggesting that you don't have gatherings over 10 people.
That's the recommendation.
Right. Many cities have already closed everything from casinos in Las Vegas, nightclubs, shows, events, bars, restaurants, etc. Some, I believe, those are still open, at least on a limited basis.
Yeah, it depends on the county you're in, though, because some county, like LA County, is different than Orange County right now, which is different than what's going on in San Francisco and Alameda
which is
County.
crazy. Which is just crazy.
So it's each local mayor is making their decisions, and every governor is kind of doing their own thing. But that's because it's an evolving thing every day, right?
It's interesting you say that, Eric, because I'm in the process of lighting a car dealership down here with LED stuff through my other company. And the guy just called me right before the podcast here, and he said, believe it or not, we're still going forward. And I said, wow, that's not the call I expected to be getting. And he said, well, it's tough because 9 of our car dealerships that we own are in San Francisco and are forced to be closed right now, which is kind of like 2/3 of our holdings. But, because we saved money on all of the remodel and everything that we did, we need to spend the money. And so you were kind of penciled in there already. And so we're good. Which part of it is a claim?
I mean, you guys,
part of it's a claim,
you guys can
by the
see,
way, Eric.
I'm at my office right now, and actually we're here and we're still full staff because we still have business going on. Yeah, the live events business is done. I mean, it's on pause, right?
Right.
But on the acclaim side, on the architectural side, we're busy. And I know that's hard to hear right now, but
that's great. It's great news.
A lot of our acclaim reps are actually, hiring production companies to bring in a little, green screen television backdrop, and they're all planning because they can't go see the architects. They can't go see the design firms, but and actually those guys are busy too. So they're most of them are working remotely from home, but they want to do trainings. They want to keep engaged with their customers. So everybody's doing what we're doing now, right? Everybody's doing what we're doing now.
But I unplugged for a minute.
It's
I love that Wiseman's multitasking. So we talked before about people that are just getting started in the business, and I think the 5 of us have a different perspective that we might be able to lend to this, and perhaps a little bit more philosophy that's balancing our existential terror. Because we've all done this before. We've all done .com bust, 9/11, the 2007 meltdown, and we've all seen this come back. And I think if there's one thing I would like to say to anybody that's watching this that is just at the start of their career and is scared shitless, it's going to be okay. We've done this before.
Yeah.
We've come back. We've worked through. Have we seen anything like this? No, but we haven't seen anything like the dot-com bust. We haven't seen anything like 9/11. We hadn't seen anything like the credit crisis in 2007. And we came back and we made it through. So please know that there's hope and know that this industry is amazingly resilient. And it's going to be really scary because in the UK, we say bad news gets around the world before the truth has a chance to get its trousers on.
Yeah.
The bad news is going to come out first. You're going to hear about people being laid off. And then, just like after a fire, you know, those sprouts are going to start to pop up. And people will come up with amazing ideas and ways to, like you were saying, Eric, about your acclaimed dealers bringing in production companies to help them. That's brilliant. That's what we need to be doing. We're not going to worry our way out of this, but we may well be able to think our way out of this.
John, if we can, I want to, well, first of all, I want to point out that I just had the power that I think the entire industry has wanted to have for a long time. I muted John Wiseman. Yeah, I muted John Wiseman.
Yeah, you don't know if it works, though.
Oh, no, it worked. You were quiet there for a bit.
That was my CFO calling me with a payment schedule list. You know, I mean, that's what happens here, right?
Yeah.
That's the world we live in.
Well, and
Understood.
and even though a claim's busy, that could change tomorrow. A lot, you know, most of the construction sites are still open, but once those start to close, that could, you know, everything could change, right?
Well,
tomorrow.
Eric, you're also, and Ben, I'm sure you want to talk here too, but you're also talking about taking probably 30% of your business and utilizing that to pay for 100% of your business. And, you know, my hands up, I'm doing the same because there are, you know, fortunately for my company, Gear Source, it is diverse enough in that we are global. And so believe it or not, Asia is pretty busy right now.
Mexico for us is very busy right now, but Europe is done. Europe's
pretty bad.
They're on a reduced staff, minimal staff. Most people working from home.
Although Eastern Europe's okay. Eastern Europe, you know, it's not great, but they're still buying product. They're still moving some stuff around.
And that's why we're still sending people into the office in Europe, but it's a minimal staff, right?
Yeah. So you know, as far as challenges go, so I want to kind of get through the bad news first, and then let's start talking a little bit about the good news. Because I think, you know, I know a lot of the emails and messages I've gotten were, thank God you're doing this. I hope I can pull some ideas out of this. Because people really, you know, maybe sometimes we think we're a bunch of goofballs or we're whatever. People are really looking to us to provide them some answers to not to, you know, do I wear a mask or not wear a mask? I don't give a shit. That's not what I know anything about, right? But what can I do today, you know? And I'll tell you where that line comes from, by the way, this what can I do today? Craig Burrows said something on a podcast that he did with me just after he recovered from cancer, got cancer out of his body, basically. And so Craig Burrows was given a, you know, terminal, you're going to die from cancer, stage 4. I'm sorry, Craig, but this is terminal. And, you know, sitting in front of the doctor, him and his wife had a little cry for a minute and then, you know, kind of wiped the tears away. And he said, okay, so what can I do today? And the doctor said, Craig, I'm sorry, but did you not hear me? And he goes, no, I heard you, but what can I do today? What can I do right now, starting right now? And that's the general attitude that I want to, and that's, by the way, that saved Craig's life, you know, that attitude and his desire and willingness to do anything he could to beat cancer, and he beat it. And
failure was not an option.
Failure was not an option.
Failure was not an option. Yeah. He wasn't manifesting any other outcome other than getting healthy.
And
just
you know,
like you did, Mr. Loader, you did the same thing.
Yeah.
You were like, this is, you know, with your issues, you were like, this isn't taking me down. And I think that's an inspiration to all of us.
Yeah.
Wiseman did it.
Yeah, you did too, John. Yeah.
Yeah. Self-imposed.
Yeah.
And I think what Mr. Featherstone said a few moments ago is true, is keep in mind. Now, we don't know what short-term means, but this is a short-term problem. Manage it like it's a forever problem. Think about exactly what you can do today and what you need to do to protect your community, but understand that this will end.
Yeah.
Be really mindful of the news as well. I mean, I think we used to be presented facts and invited to make opinions, and now we're presented opinions and asked to decide whether they're facts or not.
Yeah, that's absolutely
Very
Right
well
on the
said.
money. It doesn't even matter, John, what side of the fence you
No, it
lean
makes no
towards.
difference. Yeah.
It's absolutely, it's gotten down to clickbait, and it's now clickbait on TV. It's just like every now and then I'll just go media free and just go, I can't listen to this shit anymore. Not just in this, just in the last, let's say 5 years.
Well, I'll tell you, social media is even worse right now because everyone's an expert. And so,
well, every asshole has their own TV station. They're their own television station. You know, there used to be 3 stations that you got your news from, and it was pretty reliable. You know, in America, in Europe it was the BBC, or in England it was BBC. But here we had ABC, NBC, CBS, right? Maybe an old UHF station, which I'm sure the young listeners don't know what the hell that is.
UHF, right?
Yeah. Well, that showed wrestling, roller derby, and waterbed movies, right? And so waterbed sponsored movies. So at the end of the day, it's like now it's too much information, and it's too much bad information.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, on social media, you know, the spin on all of this, like I really do have to just look away. Like usually I'll spend, you know, an hour a day just kind of poking around to see, you know, what companies have done layoffs, what's going on with my friends in the industry, who's hurting, who needs help, just try and get a feel for what's going on. But I don't follow the propaganda of, you know, here's what you should be doing, here's what you shouldn't be doing, you got to pick a source, a reliable enough source for that information, and just try and be sensible. And honestly, Mr. Featherstone, you've been one of those sources for me, which is shocking
really
to me.
Is coming to an end. I know that's
because normally I follow you on Facebook despite most of your opinions, but for the past couple of weeks I've followed you on Facebook for your opinions, and you know, so that's been, you know, I'm grateful to you for not just blurting out nonsense, but actually filtering it and trying to, you know, help people with truthful information for the most part. So,
and I think that's something we can do. You asked about what we could do now, and I got to tell you, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, I don't think anybody in Washington is getting up and saying, how can I screw this up? How can I make this worse? How can I put more Americans in harm's way? How can I really do my best job to screw up the economy today?
You know what, John? You're absolutely right, because I believe in my heart that human beings, as a general rule, are inherently good.
100%.
They really, really are, and I don't think there's anybody that doesn't want to fix this. They're just trying to get their heads around what it is in our industry. To kind of get back to the thing here, it's kind of like Marcel said. You know, we have the ability, the 5 of us right now, to be leaders, because this is going to be listened to, and it's going to be you know, taken with a grain of salt, or taken with you know, people looking up to us as old industry guys who, you know, been through some difficult times, but there's nothing like this before. So, you know, that's why I'm really glad you're doing this, Marcel, because I'm a positive guy. I get up in the morning and I think it's going to be okay, right? I mean, I told a story one time, and let me just digress for a moment. My mother, when I was about 8 years old, explained to me that she said there's these 2 twin boys. One was an optimist and one was a pessimist. And I said, you know, what's that? And my mom said, look, you know, the mother took the pessimist into a room, and the room was full of horse shit. She didn't say horse shit. She said it was full of horse poop, right? I vividly remember this conversation. And I said, okay, you know what? And she said, the pessimist was like, oh, this is terrible. It stinks and blah, blah, blah. And so the mom takes the twin out, and then she brings the optimist into the same exact room, same room. And the optimist looks around and goes, oh my gosh, let's get a shovel and start digging. There must be a pony in here somewhere. and really, that's what we're posed with right now. You know, I love that story. I can just picture my mom's face when she was telling me that, and I learned a lesson that day, that this is, you know, to a degree, what we're going to make out of this. And like Ben said, this is going to pass. It will pass. We know that. It's just, how long is it going to be? How are we going to keep people, you know, employed, or paying their bills or not with their water turned off or some stupid shit like that.
So John, you're at the very top of the food chain in the touring business. And, you know, other than maybe asking Live Nation or somebody, you should probably have a good feel. And, you know, without fully committing you to this, what do you think of what's the answer to that? How long is this going to be? When are tours back on the road?
I mean, honestly, you know, I haven't made a conclusion on that yet, Marcel, because it's so early in the process I'm talking to a lot of different bands every day, all night. I'm talking to, you know, actual artists. I'm talking to the guys in the band. I'm talking to their managers. I'm talking to their record companies. You know, these are all just relationships that I've had over the last 40 something years. And everybody to a man is this: look, we got to get back to work. Everybody is, we got to get back to work. Okay. But we're not going to be stupid about it. We're going to weigh out all the opportunities. And it's kind of, you know, it's an evolving answer right now, guys. And the answer a week ago was, hey, we're going to do our last show on Wednesday night, which is a week ago today. This is from an artist that was playing down in a sold out arena. We're going to do our last show tonight, and then we're going to go down, and we've got shows planned in early April. That's when we're going to kick back up again. Okay. That's changed now.
Right.
Okay. That's changed. When Live Nation said, look, I jokingly say, we are the tail on the dog, right? So, you know, we follow where the bands go, we follow where the car companies go, we follow where all the productions go. I say we're the tail of the dog, mostly the part right by the asshole, right? and we go where they go, right? So if they're not going anywhere, neither are we.
Right.
And so
But do you have a gut feel?
Yeah, my gut feel was 2 weeks, and that was a week ago, and that gut feeling's gone. I'd say honestly right now, I think we're looking at June 1 before it gets normal. And I base that on anecdotal evidence from other countries who have reached the tipping point,
right,
where it's a bit of a problem. It's wildly out of control. They get a little bit of a grip on it. It gets to a tipping point, and then it starts to go down, and we start to understand it. Yeah. And I think America, I think it was smart that we closed our borders earlier than 100%. Most. And I think that what we're all doing right now is going to help it out a lot. But I think I would have said we'd been back to work middle of April. I don't think it's till the end of May. I really don't. I just don't know. I think when the weather warms up, and you know what I know about viruses, you couldn't put in a thimble. But what I'm able to ascertain is that, look, Live Nation did a two week lockdown, right? I think that's going to extend a little bit because we're about 6 days into that right now, and we're going to follow what these guys do. Because, you know, if band X, Y, or Z or car company, look, the tip of the spear for us was the Geneva Auto Show canceling. All right. It was a $30 million cancellation for us. All right. And we're like, holy shit. Well, we can get through that. Right. And then it is just dominoed down to the fact of right now, you know, I'm part of a company that has been through a lot of ups and downs. You know, PRG and Jerry Harris have been phenomenal in the balls of this guy to put all this together and write it out and build a company, which I think is a great company, with 70 offices and 3,500 full-time employees and zero income right now. Yeah, you know, unreal. I can tell you what, Jerry Harris is. I can tell you point blank, that man is thinking about those employees and not himself right now.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Yeah, and I know Jerry too, and I would second that. There's nothing. Yeah. Jerry doesn't give a shit about the gear or the boxes, and whatever you might think about PRG,
doesn't matter.
I've known Jerry a long time, and I know what's keeping him up at night is those 3,500 people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, well, you know,
the other thing that I would probably say about Jerry right now, and, you know, let's not have a Jerry-a-thon, but
yeah, no, he's a good dude though.
The other thing I would say about Jerry right now is he's probably not curled in the fetal position in the corner waiting for shit to happen.
No.
He's thinking, he's moving, he's maneuvering.
I can confirm that. You know, there's 2 a day calls. There's a call in the morning, there's a call in the afternoon. I mean, you know, it's about, you know, how do we not, how do we get through this? You know, as executives, we've all said, look, it's time for us to take a hit. I'm not going to talk about what's going on that particularly at PRG, but I can talk about some of the things that I've been involved with in the past. When 9/11 hit, we'd never seen anything like that before. Never.
Yeah.
You know, I was in the UK when that happened, and it took me about 5 days to get home. And when I got back, I had 23 cruise ships cancel all of their builds in a 3-day period. You know, you guys were all in that stuff. You went through all of that, but we came out of it. The difference there is you knew what the fuck you were dealing with. You know, we're still trying to figure out what this is. You know, and then I'll fast forward to chaos. Not the chaos, but the company that I founded with Nick Jackson. You know, Nick and I found ourselves involved in a lawsuit. And, you know, that lawsuit was costing me about $200,000 to $300,000 a month. We were small, 40, 50 employees. We didn't lay anybody off. You know, we did the best we could. We took no pay for months just to get through it. And we came out the other end of it. You know, but guys, you know, the leaders of our industry, which are the 5 of you guys on this call, the Jerry Harrises of the world, the other guys, you know, what we do know is that this is going to come roaring back hardcore. What we do know is that, you know, the conversations that I'm having with artists is that it is all about not, oh my God, rolled up in the fetal position, like you said, Marcel. It's like, holy shit, how are we going to deal with this when it comes back roaring?
Yeah.
Because the people and the expertise that it takes to pull off these shows, you know, we can't lose them.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's going to come back hard, and it's going to come back fast. Woe betide anybody that's between Dave Grohl and an arena. I mean, the thing that Dave Grohl put out, he's like, I mean,
wasn't that great?
He's ready to get back. So, but Marcel, you said before about coming out of this with some real takeaways for people that are listening or watching. And I think there's 2 we've hit on so far, which is this has happened before and we've made it through. And keep hopeful. You know, keep optimistic. Keep your head up. Don't get down. And if you're feeling down and out or down in the dumps, call your friends, call your colleagues. You know, I said to everybody in our company, call me 24/7. My phone's never far from the bed anyway, as Kathy will attest, with a suitable acerbic wit and scorn about the proximity of the phone to our bed. But pick up the phone and call your friends. You know, a trouble shared is a trouble halved, and we will get through this together. But we're going to get through this. It's like Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep going. It's the only thing.
I've talked to a ton of business owners the last few weeks, guys. You know, our dealers, guys have had to lay off half all of their staff, shut their doors. You know, it's the business owners are struggling just as much through all of this, if not more. And, you know, when I was out for 3 months on disability, you know, it was hard for me, right? And you either have to have a savings to get you through that time, or you apply for disability. And it's, you know, it's not embarrassing. Go file for unemployment if you've been laid off. Go get your money.
Look, I think it's
insurance. It's insurance.
I think the fucking government at this point, you know, there was a thing floating around which I sent to Marcel. I mean, the live event industry, which encompasses a very large, it makes General Motors look tiny. Okay. What we do around the world is huge. And I'm talking stagehands to performers and everything in between, the truck driver that brings it there, the hotels that depend on us to fill it up and then drink their bars dry. Okay. I'm telling you, we're huge. We're a big, big thing, and it's not being talked about. They're talking about hotels. They're talking about the car industry. You roll that up in the live event industry, we're a hell of a lot bigger. And you know what? We got to start making some goddamn noise to get some attention, because you know those checks.
We need our trade associations to.
And we need to be doing it when we're out of this as well as when we're in it, because exactly the same thing happened 9/11 in 2007. We went, hey, what about us? What about all these? You know, everybody talks about the gig economy. We literally are the gig economy. We're doing gigs, damn it.
Look, I'm going to tell you what.
And we need to remember this when things get better and we get busy. and not just go, oh, I got to focus on the business and all that stuff. And there's this lead over here. We need to commit to our own industry and to each other.
No, look, that's exactly what I'm saying, John. Exactly what I'm saying. I mean, when I look at and not this is not political, okay? But if we can spend $3 trillion on a fucking war in the Middle East somewhere, you can give $50 billion to the airline industry. You can give $50 billion, or you can give $2 billion to the live event industry. Give it to the company owners with the caveat: you don't lay a fucking soul off. You don't lay anybody off. Okay. Yeah. Here's your line of credit. If you, it's not a bailout. It's a helping hand, and that shit needs to happen, right? And the caveat is no working man gets laid off. There's a lot we can do right now in this downtime. You can organize your warehouses. There's a lot of stuff that can be done right now. But if you're shipping everybody home, it's bullshit. And that's what we're trying to do right now.
So some of the things I wanted to talk about now that we're kind of moving past the negative shit into some of the positive stuff. And so I wanted to mention, first of all, businesses that have been through this or worse. And when you look at a company like Netflix, for example, and so they weren't hit by a virus or anything like that, but DVDs, which was their business, 100% of their business at one point, went away. And what did they do? They sort of developed this streaming business. And now they're the
record labels.
The record labels had to reinvent themselves. And in the short term, the way that they did that was they were selling lunchboxes with Beatles logos on them, and they were selling pens with Pink Floyd logos on them. And I have a drawer full of them here.
Those, huh?
No, my wife was in the record business, and I stole them. When you had to steal a lot because they were really shitty. They were really shitty pens, and so you had to steal a whole bunch of them because they only worked for a couple of days. But the point is that they didn't say, "Oh well, I guess we're going to have to just cut all of our staff and curl up in a ball and die." They said, "We got to figure out a way to make money." So what I think is, going back to that Craig Burrows conversation, is what can we do now? And that's the thing that not only we as business owners need to be looking at, but individuals who are the freelancers who are hurting right now. And so they didn't have the greatest lifestyles. They didn't make the best decisions. They weren't financial geniuses. So what? We're still in this, they're hurting right now. Got to figure something out. And so John said the government is probably going to step up and help, or hopefully will do something. There is a, what is that thing called?
They're only going to do something. They're only going to do something if we make them do something. You got to look at the other side of it too. Is that the government is everybody right now is calling them for help. Everybody. Right. So how do you cut through that noise, right? And that's something that has to happen. And I thought that. I'm sorry, I interrupted you there, Marcel.
No, that's good.
It's like you've never seen anything like this before. Everybody needs help.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So, by the way,
and who knew I was a socialist?
Yeah, I'm going to share. Well, we're all socialists today. Right. We're all socialists today because we all need help. Everyone, the whole industry needs help. But I'm going to put all of the links. So if you guys have any important links that you want me to share to people for this podcast, send me those links right when we're done, and I'll make sure to include them in the actual any of the promo we do for the podcast and in the podcast link itself. So, one of the other things that I don't know if people know about this or are paying attention to this, I'm sure all of you know, but the federal government has put in place some SBA financing, and it's still not even finalized, because the funny thing is, while the president was announcing it, I believe it was on Saturday or Friday or something, I'm actually texting my banker saying, sign me up. I want some of this SBA money.
Yeah.
And my banker's like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. What do you, and I'm like, it's being announced right now. I want to be first in line for it. Not because I know that I'm going to need it, but because in case I need it, it's there. If I don't need it, I won't use it. Right.
Well, and look, it doesn't have to be, I hate the word bailout, because, when we're making a ton of money, we can pay this back. I mean,
right.
look,
exactly.
That's I think that's the part where Bernie Sanders said something yesterday, who thought I would have ever agreed with him, but he just said, look, you know what? You don't just give this money and then you need to put in places where they can't buy the cheap stock buybacks and all that kind of stuff. It's got to be a legitimate business loan. There's got to be some strings attached to it. And when we are all doing back, that money needs to go back to where it came from.
That's exactly what these SBA loans are.
Yeah.
So SBA being Small Business Administration. So the way that works, just for people who don't know, is the Small Business Administration is a government agency. What they do is they back loans for your bank. So in other words, they'll guarantee the loan for your bank. Your bank can lend you the money. If you don't pay it back, the bank's not out the money. The government pays the bank. The
government basically agrees to chase you if the bank can't find you.
Pretty much.
And there's some very specific, even it's county by county. I was reading yesterday, Westchester, Putnam, and Dutchess, which are the 3 counties just north of Manhattan here. There are specific programs you can get into just in those counties through the SBA, or some of the counties in New Jersey now and Connecticut.
Well, that's going to roll out
about the tri-state area. So.
That's going to roll out nationally, Ben. So right now, like for example, Florida isn't even on the list, and but it will be probably by the end of this week. And so we're in line.
The governor has to request it. If from what I understood, so I was right off the phone
because it's all disaster-based lending.
Right. So I was right off the phone from my banker and on the phone with the governor's office. Well, leaving a voicemail, obviously. He does not take my calls. I don't know what's going on with that, but he doesn't take my call. But I think that's something else we can do as well. We're talking about things we can do. Talk to your representatives, local, state, federal government. Wiseman was talking about having a voice.
Yeah,
they care about votes. And when they're hearing a lot of people, and I say to everybody that works for us, get on the phone. Don't be a dick about it. Don't scream and shout. Be super polite, but be super persistent.
I just want to finish off.
Charlie Hernandez, who does amazing stuff.
I want to finish this. I want to finish this thing about available cash, though, because I think it's very important. And I think every business, if you haven't cut staff, if you haven't cut costs, unimportant, whatever it is, anything that you're spending on, if you haven't made those cuts yet, chances are in this industry, you're going to have to make those cuts very soon. And so you may need money. And if you don't need it today, great. Like for sure, Amazon and the toilet paper companies don't need money today.
Yeah.
However, I read a great article about the toilet paper companies. Well, the toilet paper companies are going to be in trouble really soon because people are buying 9 months worth of toilet paper right now. A month from now, it goes off a cliff and nobody needs toilet paper.
Unless they get diarrhea.
ever the optimist. Ever the optimist.
Yeah.
So we've pulled in too much food. It's not going to keep properly, and that's going to solve problems.
The kids on our block will just go back to TPing houses again.
There you go.
I have
wrap houses.
Eric said something really interesting earlier, and maybe also just again in the spirit of what can we be doing. Eric, you had 90 days at home or whatever it was. Yeah. And obviously you had some health things to work on, but what did you do from a work perspective? What did you work on? What did you concentrate on to make sure you came out on day 91 in a better position than you were on day 90?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Well, the first 60 days, my wife wouldn't give me my phone or laptop, so I couldn't do much.
Yeah, but you probably had during that time, you probably got to do a lot of great internal work.
I got to read, and I got to, because a lot of it's mental too, right? And a lot of it's about recovering from the emotional, mental part of the surgery versus the physical part. So I spent a lot of time on that. And I think a lot of people need to work on their mental health during this period too.
100%.
And I read a lot of great books, obviously watched a lot of Netflix. But people came in, people were able to come see me after a couple of weeks, and I got visitors. And all I could do back then was walk, and I walked by myself. I couldn't exercise. I couldn't do anything. So you know what? I went and walked a mile a day to start, and then the next week it was 2 miles. The next week it was 3 miles, because I couldn't do anything else. And you know what? I got my head so clear during that process, and I encourage people to do that now instead of sitting home. Go walk. I mean, we're not confined to our homes. We can still go outside and walk and get fresh air.
for now.
Except in the 7 counties north of San Francisco, I guess.
Yeah, there
And,
you
and
go.
I think mental health is super important in this. And I think us as leaders, who I think all of us have one thing in common, that's we really give a shit about people.
Well, and you guys,
and it's one thing I learned from Wiseman a long time ago, was really keep a beady eye on the people that are taking care of you. And I think to support people in their mental health, you know, there's a good friend of mine, Lindsay Scholar, started an enterprise called Tour Support, which is focused on our industry and providing mental health resources. Marcel, I'll send you the link. You can put it in the show notes. And what Lindsay and her significant other, Steve Richards, have done with this organization is remarkable in terms of a place to go to get help with mental health issues in our peculiar business. And I think that's going to be really important. And I think giving people a forum to talk about this stuff is going to be critical. This is, people are going to go stir crazy. We're an on-the-run business. We really are.
I mean, we have a group.
Yeah.
We have a group of people at ACT who, you know, like we were joking earlier about John, who have spent, you know, 10 calendar days a month at home, right? That constantly on the run, and they're all now parked in their houses, and obviously they're keeping in touch with their contacts and their industry friends and making sure everyone's okay and checking in on what's going on, but also just making sure, you know, we all have that list of things that we're going to do. Oh, tomorrow, next week, next month. Now's a really great time also to get all those things done.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know, the one of the things that I learned going through, you know, my near death experience was, it was an exercise that I went through where my counselor looked at me and he goes, "Hey, Wiseman, right here, that time is gone. It's gone. Can't get it back. That's it. Yeah. So you have to be present," which is hard for us to do.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be, because I'm always analyzing what happened. How can I make that better? How did I fuck that up? How did I do it right? Et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Well, what am I going to do? It's like, no. What are you doing right now? Right. So, you know, it's hard to be in the present. I don't think that's just our industry. I think it's just the human nature. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're all honestly fear-based.
Yeah.
Everything we do is driven
by
fear.
One of the books I read during that time, John, was The Power of Now.
Yeah.
That's a great book.
That's exactly it. It's, you know, I was dying to go to LDI, right? I was during my recovery during LDI. And I'm like, how can I go to LDI without going to LDI, right? So I got that, you know,
virtual Eric. Yeah.
the eBot from Double Robotics, and it's an iPad on a Segway, for lack of a better description. And the girls bought one, and we sent it to LDI, and I was able to be there at LDI virtually, like we are talking now, but just with the ability to control and move around the show. And it was incredible. And I think we're going to do a lot more of this going forward. I mean, I would do video conferencing now, maybe once a week, twice a week. I think we got to do this every day with our customers, with our colleagues.
Yeah, you know, it's been interesting how many people have reached out to me and said, "Marcel, I know you run a virtual company. I know you use a lot of online tools and virtual tools and stuff. Can you help me?" And so I've been guiding all kinds of businesses on using Slack to operate your business, using Zoom to operate meetings, using all kinds of different tools, how to do podcasting. I've talked so many people through how to operate a podcast.
And yet me and Gomar and yet Featherstone and I could not get it together.
Yeah.
I screwed it up before you even got here, John.
Yeah, I couldn't get on the phone because I didn't have Lacey here to fix it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anything to talk about right now, make it a habit. Make it we do this at ACT. We have 9 buildings. We do this throughout the company every single day, because what you're doing is you're building the infrastructure. You're building the train tracks. You're putting the cars on the tracks. You'll figure out what to put in the cars later, but build the habit of these communication rhythms.
I agree completely.
You know, they're going to matter.
And from a business standpoint, stay close to your clients. You know, everybody needs to be reaching out. Don't be afraid to call people and just say, "Hey, you know what? This really sucks, doesn't it? How you doing? How you feeling? How's your family? How are your loved ones?" That's how we keep that.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of that right now.
And we're doing the trainings too, right? So I mean, I know I've seen MA's doing it. You know, everybody's doing free trainings now for everybody. ETC. We're going to do it with Obsidian.
Thank you all for doing that for the industry.
You know, we had planned in-person training here last week, so we've obviously canceled that. But we told everybody, hey, log in online. It won't be the same as having your hands on the consoles, but you can still kind of get the 101 of the product. We can talk to you about new features.
Those are the things that I'm loving seeing right now is people are figuring this out. So companies, I saw MA Lighting doing it. I see that you're doing it now, Eric. Companies are figuring out how to do online training webinars. And so it's sort of a double win. Like, for example, you know, if someone's learning a new console or a new version of software for a console, that is basically enabling the console company to have more users out there who know your console, and the users are obtaining a new skill. And I think in this downtime, whether you are a freelancer, a business, or whoever, you should be learning new things right now.
Well, and that gets right back to the point of, this is not going to last forever.
Of course not.
So,
and plan for who you're going to be on day number
absolutely.
one.
Yeah, right.
Well,
absolutely.
It's right back to what you said, Ben, to Eric. What were you going to do on day 91?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got a day 91, just to use that, terminology.
Absolutely.
We've got a
Let's
day.
hope it's 31, but sorry.
Yeah, exactly. No. I'm with you, Ben. I'm shooting for 31. I'm shooting for 21 actually. So, there's, you can sit around and you can think, that it's all gloom and doom. It's not. Okay. It's an opportunity to do other things. Right. It really is.
The other thing is,
and hold on, getting back to, so I had this trip planned where I'm on right now about 3 or 4 months ago. And it was a trip to like do some self-care, check into a nice resort, work out every day, eat well, see the grandparents, do all those kind of things. Right. And I had stuff planned for this week. And I thought, okay, well, part of me was like, in fear about what's going to happen with the business, but I had no control over that. So the other part of me that I did have control over was, look, I haven't had a break since 9/11. Okay. This is not going to last forever. So I'm going to make the very best of it.
Yeah.
That's the attitude.
Well, improving you.
Yeah.
Improving
exactly.
you. No. And so I think a couple things, one, when we look at that day 91, as you call it,
let's call it day 21, please.
What do we look like? What do we look like as individuals, as professionals, as humans? What does our business look like in 91 days or 31 or 21? Have we evolved? Are we better than we were before?
Did we learn anything?
In most cases, have we learned anything? But also, how did you treat people? And so this is something that I am preaching to my company all day, every day right now, is people are going to remember how you treated them through this process. And so even if you have to, God forbid, any of us, all of us, fire people, lay people off, cut expenses, whatever, someone's going to be on the receiving end of that. And we can do that with dignity and with fairness and with kindness and with empathy, or we can just be dicks about it and send HR in there. And, not that that's being dicks. I mean, that's how a lot of big companies have to do things these days. But I just think there's a way to communicate this with our people and to just be great. Yeah, and have some humanity and look at what it looks like on the other end. Another couple things I wanted to bring up is some of the things I'm loving right now. We are in a very passionate creative industry with some really smart, passionate, creative people out there. And so I've seen a few things over the past couple of days that I'm just blown away by. One was, and I don't know much about it, but I see that there's an event being created as a benefit for people in the industry that's going to be called, I believe it's Live from Nowhere. And so it's a concert that's going to be streamed, and it's going to be called Live from Nowhere. Sounds really cool. I don't know much about it, but I love the idea. This morning, I saw Keith Urban did a live stream last night, and I don't know if you've seen it yet. I know you're very friendly with that group, John, but Keith Urban did a live stream. Oh, we lost Ben somehow. Hello?
No, we're still here.
Oh, John.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Sorry, I was taking my turn to go get coffee, so I was turning off the video.
Wiseman was muted there for a second.
Yeah, you know what? Keith's a very charitable man, and he he's been through a lot of hard times as well.
But he did this really cool thing where he did a live stream from his storage warehouse, where he played and sang, and I think it was the drummer who basically hit play, and Keith Urban even said, you know, I'm doing karaoke right now, I hope you like it. And then Nicole Kidman's dancing around in the background, you know, being like a fan and a groupie kind of thing, and it was just super, super cool. Another one was
sweet.
last night I saw Dropkick Murphys doing
that was brilliant.
same kind of thing, a live stream for St. Patrick's Day, and there was a whole bunch of Irish bands doing St. Patty's Day live streams. Really, really cool stuff. You know, I love.
Yeah, I really hope like the Live Nations, AGs. I hope they put together some of this stuff quickly.
Yeah,
because I think that will help inject some money into the support relief efforts. And,
we actually there was a couple of guys that had come to us. Actually, ironically, designers like John Featherstone, who simultaneously, a group of them, all none of them connected, all competitors, but completely independently, all came to us and said, look, we want to do this. And it was like, okay, everyone's talking about this. So the first one we did, I think, was with Kelsey Ballerini, and we set up, and her record label, who, you know, the labels don't make any money off the live stuff. The labels make money, you know, off of, you know, streaming and selling and blah blah blah. So they got to keep the music up in people's faces, and they actually paid to do a podcast, webcast, live show from a studio that we had set up, and we're starting to get a lot of. Metallica reached out about doing something like that. I mean, so, you know, you have to. This is where innovation comes from need.
Right.
When you need something, you innovate. You know, we didn't think we needed cell phones, and someone thought we did. So then we found out we all needed them.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
No, it's true.
So, you know, this is where the innovation and the creativity is unlocked.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, good comes from bad. It's horrible.
Triumph always comes from adversity.
Yeah,
always comes from adversity. And I think in the event space as well. I mean, Hyundai last night, you know, one of our clients, Marty Brinkerhoff, went to Hyundai and they did a virtualized meeting, not a webinar, not something that was designed to be a bunch of talking heads in a room, but a live event that was broadcast. And I think there are tons of opportunities for us to think about. It's on YouTube. It was the Hyundai event from last night. It's worth taking a look, because there was a lot of smart people thinking about the way to do something that made you feel like you were in a live event. And and I thought that was, I saw the Keith Urban thing as well, and I thought that was really cool, because it was really kind of like impromptu and rough around the edges, and really kind of cool and different. And the Hyundai thing, it felt like you were at a live event. It didn't feel like a TV show. It felt different. And there's so many smart people in this business who are thinking about ways to reframe this and find silver linings to this really big storm cloud.
Well, and again, I think one of the things that has to resonate is every person, every business needs to take some responsibility, some self-responsibility, personal responsibility to improve, to increase your skill level, to make yourself healthier, like John is trying to do this week, to, you know, I mean, we have to make sure we all survive. You know, that's number one, is you got to survive, whether it's the business surviving, people surviving, your families surviving, etc. But we got to survive first and foremost, which means that businesses are going to make some decisions. Some of them appear to be rather unpopular. You know, I personally, you know, the way that Christie went about it very publicly, I thought was actually kind of cool. You know, and I'm very sad for all the people who lost jobs, but Huntley Christie didn't hide from it. He
was
went
honest.
out and put out a press release and said, this was devastating. I love these people. It took me so many years to build this team of people, and here I had to let go of almost 50% of them, and I hope to hire them all back very soon. And but that's what it is. You know, I'm not going to.
And he was way ahead of the curve too.
Carpet.
He was way ahead of the curve. Well, how the hell? What does he know about this that we don't know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how Huntley has always structured his business. You know, it's always been a very compartmental sort of business that, you know, you could expand quickly, you could contract quickly, and maybe that's just how we Canadians think. You know, everything could go away tomorrow. What's it look like? You know, and I've gotten away from that at some point in my life, but I've always thought a bit like that too. Like everybody's going to steal all of my lunch tomorrow, so I got to figure out how to eat without it, you know? And
you got to figure out how to eat it before they do.
yeah,
Remember to play offense, not just defense.
They got that all backwards.
yeah. One thing I wanted to go back to is I kept talking about these SBA loans and stuff, but there's one in Florida, and I'm sure some other states have it as well. But there's one in Florida. There's a disaster bridge loan in Florida, which is 0 interest. It's available on a signature only, and you can get up to $100,000 on a signature only in the state of Florida. And so any businesses who are listening to this who happen to be in the state of Florida, you should be applying for this. And I'll try
There
and
must
post,
be something like that in other states
link.
as well.
I'm sure
there are. And I think what's important as well, Marcel, is in this gig economy age, a lot of the people that we use as independent contractors have actually incorporated. And I've had some conversations with them where I'm like, you're incorporated. The bank doesn't care whether it's just you incorporated or whether you have 100 people. You're a corporation, leverage that. And I think as business owners, we can maybe help some of the people that we work with who aren't quite as savvy in that, who are like, well, I incorporated because my accountant told me to, and it's going to save me a bunch of money. Well, now that's a strategic advantage. You can talk to your bank about loans. I've been saying to guys, send us invoices. We can't pay you at the moment, but then you've got a bunch of money on your books that you can go to the bank and go, look, we've got all of this. All of these invoices are issued. All of this money is pending. These guys are going to pay us eventually. And I think helping using our business savvy that Wiseman, I know you're like me, you've kind of Forrest Gumped your way into this just like I did.
Absolutely.
Owning a business. I have zero. I don't even have any training in lighting, much less in business. I'm making this shit up as I'm going along. But we figured out a way to do this. Share that knowledge with other people who are maybe not quite so savvy, because I think a lot of people go, oh, an SBA loan, that's not for me. Well, if you're incorporated,
why wouldn't
you're a
it be?
small business. You're 100% in the sweet spot for that stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's clouds coming and you're just grabbing an umbrella. That's all you're doing.
Really? Yeah.
Hopefully you never have to use that money, but putting those lines of credit in place that they are handing out now quite easily to businesses who maybe a month ago might not have qualified or might not have asked for a loan. Today, it's a different situation.
Look, we call that dry powder, and that's that's just an old time way of saying, have your ammunition ready. You don't have to shoot it, you don't have to use it, but you can have dry powder. You want to prepare for a rainy day. You want to, it's just smart to have a line of credit. So and avoid dipping into it unless you have to.
Agreed.
So we were talking about day 91. There's one thing that I think is going to be really interesting for us to think about. Wiseman, you and I have known each other a long time, and I think you and I have very much the same kind of mentality in terms of, this all sucks. When's it going to be better? Let's move forward. Yeah. I could really use some definition about when are we going back? And I know everybody's focused on, obviously, on the people that are sick and the unfortunate people who are losing their lives to this. But I could really use some guidance from government about when we're going to go back, and all of our clients could. When are we coming out from our self-imposed isolation, and when are we going to start moving forward? Well, zero cases? Is it zero deaths?
Look, John,
I would ask John Wiseman before I'd ask the president that question right now.
Neither of them would have an accurate answer.
Well, my fingers on the pulse of that thing. I mean, there's a couple of things that I just don't understand, and that these are the things, guys, that I have a hard time getting my head around, being a logical thinking, positive man. Okay. There's nothing I think that I can't do. There's certain things I won't attempt because I don't think I'll do them very well. But I also think that there's nothing we can't do collectively. Anything we want to do, we can do, John Kennedy said we're going to put a man on the moon. It's like, so guess what? We put a fucking man on the moon.
Not because it's easy, but because it's hard.
Exactly. Well, and it's also too, people ask me, how'd you get in the business that you're in? And I said, well, if you'll tell me how to get out, I'll tell you how to get in. So that's funny. I've said that to a kid front of house, right? So getting back to that, what I can't understand, and I think that probably some of the people listen on this, and again, not political, strictly statistics. My father was a lawyer, and he said to me one time, he said, look, there's 3 ways to say liar. There's liar, goddamn liar, and statistician. Okay, because you can twist that stuff. So when I look at the statistics, you've got 100 people have died in America, and if one person dies, it's way too much, and it's horrible, and it's bad. Okay, but I also look, 300,000 people died last year of obesity. Okay, and there's not a mad dash to stop selling French fries. All right, 180,000 people died of the measles last year. Okay, all of this is really bad. I just trying to understand exactly what is going on here, because until I understand exactly what's happening here, I can't understand how it's going to end and how it's going to go from there.
100%. Couldn't possibly agree more.
Yeah.
And I think in early stages, Marcel, you were saying, I'm a serial Facebook poster. A lot of people said, well, you're diminishing this. I said, I'm not diminishing it. I'm trying to understand it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to understand how we crisis manage for a crisis that we can't even really define, that we haven't set the parameters for. I'm with you, Wiseman. One life lost is too many. Yeah. But we have many, many problems in modern society. Why is this one inducing such panic? And I think it's because media. And when are we going to say it's better,
John? I think it's because you can't see it.
Yeah.
It's an invisible enemy. You don't know what
you can't see the measles. You can't see diabetes. You can't see heart disease.
But John, there's a history, and we look back at history's anecdotal, and that's where we get our information.
But
from.
Here's the scary thing.
We can see trends, right?
Here's the scary thing, John.
This is all brand new.
John's, here's a scary thing.
Yeah.
What if this creates a similar reaction for future outbreaks of anything, or for future, one person can't die.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to lose any people, but if we say there can't be one more car accident with one more death in cars,
exactly,
all of us are going to be walking to work. I mean, there's not going to be any cars on the road because you can't make them 100% safe. We're not on a 100% safe planet.
No, and that's the point where I'm saying, to understand this, for myself, I gotta put a fucking stake in the ground to measure things. I gotta, okay, from where? I don't think that stake's been put in the ground yet, and that's kind of frustrating because it's hard to give an answer. So if you had to ask me based on what I know today, when day 91 is, Mr. Featherstone, I think it's around. Honestly, I think it starts getting back to normal around June. I think it starts squeaking back past that tipping point around the 1st of May, right?
But then it's going to be insane, isn't it?
But
isn't everybody going to be short on staff, short on gear?
Yeah, but look at, man, bring on the fucking insanity. We've been insane for 40 years. Bring it on.
But if we're allowing the epidemiologists to define public policy, which is what we're doing at the moment.
Well, no, hold on, John. You're also letting social media, not you.
Oh, 100%.
Social media is defining 100%. What the fuck is happening here, and that's insane.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Well,
so I think we could look to our government for some guidance in that, to say, look, we're working with this. Here's the victory line. Whenever we've had these situations before, it's been, our goal is to defeat ISIS. Our goal is to drive the Taliban out of Afghanistan. Our goal is whatever.
The plague.
We've known where the line is. And I think we need to be thinking about what that looks like for each of us, for our businesses, for when we're going to let people back in, when a tour's going to roll back out, when a Live Nation and Clear Channel going to lift their moratorium. I think we need to start to think about how we get out of this. We're in a hole now. What does getting out of the hole look like?
Well, can I say something, guys? My daughter, she's 15, and she came to me last night. She goes, Dad, this is kind of controversial, but she goes, why is fear spreading faster than the virus?
Yeah.
And why are we, maybe we're overreacting, and yes, it's terrible, but there, we do have references in the past for H1N1 and other diseases, and yes, this one is spreading faster apparently. Or is more contagious.
Well, no, but maybe it's not, because you don't, when they say 3% of what? They don't even know what the fuck their 3% is. You know, that's the problem I have. That's where I can't put it in a box and measure
okay,
it.
so China, right? Let's assume this.
Your
all
daughter's
started in
very
China.
bright. Your daughter's very
Smart
bright, by the
girl.
way.
Yeah.
She's a smart girl. She catches me off guard quite often.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, in China, you know, our products are made there, and we have a lot of partners and friends there. We have 40 factories that we deal with there, and most of them are back to work. Most of them are at 80%, 100% production capacity now. They're begging us for orders right now.
And you know, and you know what? And that's part of my data that I pulled together to trying to make these decisions, right? So we had some stuff being built for Metallica, for Foo Fighters, and we had some stuff being built for Motley Crue, right? It just stopped. And so my head of R&D calls me, and I go, so what do you know about that? And he goes, well, I'm in Hong Kong right now. I go, what the fuck are you doing in Hong Kong? He goes, look, the factories are starting to go back to work. They want to get these orders out. So that's part of that tipping point that I talked about earlier.
Right.
You know, there's a great book called The Tipping Point, right? And it basically means when you get to a certain point to where, you know, a trend will turn into normal, right?
Right.
And so right now, when you see China lockdown, and by the way, you can't trust a goddamn word that comes out of that government over there. You can't trust anything. What you can trust is that if the factories are back working and people are not dying in the streets, then it's probably doing better. And you're kind of seeing that wave happen. And they were 3 or 4 months ahead of us. I think I think, and I hope, and I believe that we've done a better job of keeping this thing under control than they did. So, you know, that's where I look to May. I just want to be able to, when the shit hits the fan and I've got, you know, look, again, being the tail on the dog, right? The CAAs and William Morris's of the world and the AEGs and the Live Nations of the world, these people own arenas. These people, I mean, they're way, way out there farther than we are. Lot farther. We've seen, how many shows have we seen where they go, God, they're only doing like 3,000 or 4,000 seats in a 15,000 seat amphitheater. Why did they keep doing that? Well, so they can sell beer, peanuts, parking, all the rest of it, right? So those guys are who we follow. And those guys are even highly more motivated than we are to get this stuff back to work. So So, you know, there's
by the way, they have
force.
better lobbyists than we do.
Yeah,
exactly.
man, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And we need to fix that. We need to fix that when this gets better and we've got some disposable income again.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying.
I'm right with you, man.
No, but you're right, Ben. But you know what? We can piggyback with those guys.
Yeah.
You know?
But Wiseman, you were talking about China. Somebody in China stood up and said, and Eric, you know, like you, we got a bunch of friends over there as well. But somebody in government stood up and said, okay, everybody back to work. Based on it perhaps a totally arbitrary, all right, we're done with dealing with the criteria.
Yeah, that's the scary part. You don't know.
Somebody needs to be prepared to stand up and say, okay, back to work. And
guys,
I'd love to know what that looks like.
It ain't that good yet because maybe China is getting a lot better, but I have an office in Singapore, and the guy who runs my Singapore office, yesterday I was talking with him, and yesterday the head of, whether it's prime minister or president or whatever, of Malaysia.
He's a dictator over there, basically.
No, Malaysia. The head of Malaysia, which is their nearest neighbor.
Yeah.
And so the economy's much better. The dollar's much stronger in Singapore than in Malaysia. Malaysia, and I hate to sound bad or whatever, but Malaysia to Singapore is like Mexico to us, basically.
Okay.
So a lot of labor comes into America from Mexico. We rely on that labor coming in and then going home on the weekends. Same in Singapore with Malaysian labor comes into Singapore, skilled labor. They do the jobs and they go back home in Malaysia. And Singaporeans travel into Malaysia as well. Well, they've just, I don't think they've closed the borders, but what they've done is they've imposed this 14-day, you know, what do you call it, where you got to sit at home alone again? I should remember.
Isolation.
Quarantine, a 14-day quarantine if you visit Singapore. So basically Malaysian workers can't go work in Singapore anymore, and it's causing, you know, complete havoc. This just happened yesterday. So.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that's part of the tipping point, because look, if we got to shut down for 30 days and we know it's 30 days, it's like Featherstone
shut
said.
down.
You
Bring
just
it.
got
How long
to
has that money
know.
got to go? That's what I'm looking for, Wiseman. I know how much money we've got. I know what we can borrow. How long does it have to last? Because I want to spread that out across everybody in our organization.
No, exactly right.
Everybody gets a bit.
That's the answer that we don't have yet, but I
Yeah.
think every day, literally, we get closer to having what that answer is,
So-
and I believe the truth will be revealed.
And that's why you've got to plan like it's a
Yeah.
forever problem.
What I want
Yeah.
to do right now, because I don't have you guys all day, and I know all of you their phones are starting to vibrate and everything's going on right now. So what I want to do is I want to kind of try and end this with 3 questions or 1 question, basically, that I want sort of the top 3 answers from each of you. And so I'll start. So the question is that Craig Burrows question, what can I do now? What can I do today to improve this situation? And so my 3 answers, which I just scribbled down while talking with you guys, first is have cash and or credit available. And so whether you're a business or an individual, and for some individuals, it's just too late to do anything about it. But I do believe that you're going to be able to get, like Eric was saying earlier, you can apply for different means of getting capital from the government. You can find part-time work. You can go work in an Amazon warehouse. I mean, there are opportunities out there to be able to feed your family. So have some form of cash or credit available in order to sustain your business for, let's call it 90 days right now. I hope that it's closer to 60 days, but let's call it 90 days. Secondly, is take the time to improve you and or your business. And whether that's your health, whether that's improving your processes, your systems, your inventory, your the way your staff is made up, whatever it is, take time to improve your business or yourself. And if you're an individual or a freelancer, add new skills. If you're a lighting tech, why not become a lighting programmer? Learn more about operating some of the top consoles out there. Take the time to take those classes that are being offered by Eric and by Ben and by MA Lighting and by other companies who are providing those opportunities. And then last is plan for day 91. And so I believe every business and every individual needs to be looking at day 91 or 61 or 21, whatever that is. But let's just call it 91 for now for fun. But plan for day 91, because if we don't plan for day 91, Eric and Ben, you're not going to have enough inventory to fill the needs of your customers. I'm not going to have enough listings to be able to sell product globally when people are buying product again. Everyone basically needs to be planning for day 91, because if all of a sudden everything is dumped in your lap, you're just not going to have enough resources or time or capability to deal with it. So next, just in my list as I see them on the screen, is Eric. So what can people do now?
Well, I think it's the looking at taking inventory. What do you have? What can get you through this time period with what you have today in front of you? And then what do you need? Analyzing your needs to get you through that period. We had our management meeting yesterday. All the managers sat down. What do you need for each department to keep doing with the business we have today? And then looking at the sales team, what business do we have coming? Talk to your customers. And, John said it earlier, engage with your customers, engage with your clients. Even if the jobs are canceled, talk to them, see what's, where their heads are at. I'm sure Wiseman is talking to his customers every day just to get a vibe for when it will come so he can report back to what the needs are going to be. It's all connected. I mean, fortunately, every year we're used to dealing with Chinese New Year. So we've got a lot of inventory right now. And we had a lot of inventory on the water already. But now, at what point do we start releasing purchase orders again and start building again? That's what we're juggling with right now and trying to figure out.
Yeah. Well, and what does that demand look like at day 91? I mean, that's a very difficult one. I think there are still things floating out there that we don't know, like the Olympics. The Olympics is sort of the elephant in the room sort of bad word right now. If the Olympics were to cancel, what does that do? That's ugly. So, John Featherstone.
I think there are three things that I jotted down. The one is resources, and every aspect of that. Marcel, you've had some great advice about places people could go for cash flow, but that's also making sure that you're keeping your resources balanced in terms of your own personal energy levels and your own personal feeding your soul and your spirit. And that links into my second one, which is mental health. Check in with people. These are tough times, and sometimes it's the least likely person that really needs some help. I have a history of depression. I think I'm probably the least likely person you would look at and go, I wonder if that guy battles depression. We all have our own challenges. We're going to need to lean into each other. Practice positive mental health for yourself and for others. Figure out what feeds your soul and go do it. For me, it's getting my drum set back out and starting to play again, something I haven't had time for ages, getting back on my bike. And the third thing is stay busy. We're people that thrive with keeping energized and motivated. There's tons of things that we can do. And for a lot of the people that work with us, it's finding things people can do where they feel they're making a difference. We've come across this organization, and Marcel, I'll send you this to put in the notes as well, called foldingathome.org. And it's a Stanford organization that's using distributed processing to help support the research into treatments for coronavirus and a number of other conditions. We got a lot of really smart, really techie people who are really bored at the moment, and we're dragging out every laptop, every computer, every D3 server, everything we've got, and aligning our resources behind this distributed thing. We can all come together, and it gives people something to do where it makes it feel like they have some dominion and some control. There's so much that's out of control at the moment. Let's try and help people around us feel like they have some kind of control.
Excellent information. And Wiseman?
Well, the guy who goes last has the worst idea.
You're not last.
Ben. Ben. Well, you're screwed, Ben. So
totally am. Deservedly so.
Yeah. So, look, I agree with everything that all of you said. The one thing I go back to is optimism and believing. Number one, just people need to understand and remember and hold to your heart that this is going to end. Okay. Yeah. We don't know when it's going to end, but we know it's going to end. I'm more lean towards it's going to end soon. Right. So, it's, I don't know what depression is. I haven't suffered that. I've suffered the opposite, wild, insane optimism, right? Which is kind of depressing when you think about it. So I just go to the point of it's gonna end. We got to get through it. We gotta love the people that we work with, for, and who work for us. I like to say people we work with, because that's the way I look at my coworkers. Yeah. And be prepared for the wild rodeo coming up. I mean, I promise you all, and I promise the people listening, you will look back at this and go, my God, I wish I'd taken some time.
Yeah, it's going to be the roaring 20s. It's going to be the roaring 20s when this comes back. People are going to be so starved of connection and entertainment and enjoyment. It's going to be bonkers.
Well, and I look at that as like it's going to be a madhouse, which is what's normal to us, right? But we have to stretch our resources now. You don't just cut things out of fear. You got to put it all on the table, and you got to spread it out amongst all the people to make sure everybody gets what they need, right? I'll be a capitalist pig in about 90 days. Right now, I'm going to be a warm, sharing socialist, because that's what's needed right now. Yeah. That's just what's needed.
John, you just made me think of something else, by the way, just to screw Ben even worse here.
Yeah. Bend over. Bend over, Ben. Bend over, Ben. Here comes the last good idea.
Yeah. No. Ever.
Yeah. No, I mean, the thing is, this was one of the first industries to fall, and was one of the hardest hit industries, or is one of the hardest hit industries. But it's also people are going to push very hard, not just us, but fans of music, the government, local governments, local politicians, whatever you want to call it. everybody's going to push very hard for this industry to recover the fastest.
Well, because it's visible and it shows that life is happening again.
It makes people feel good to gather together, to go to a show, to see a concert, to go to a sporting event.
But from a government standpoint as well, I mean, that's all absolutely right, Marcel. But the government wants it to be normal again, because that's where they start.
But what's a bigger sign of normalcy than
that's what I'm saying.
Madonna playing to 100,000 people in a field somewhere,
and
whatever,
and that's the point. We are extremely visible. Yeah. Extremely visible. Yep. You know what? If there's a live if there's a live Earth or whatever the fuck it's called, the benefit going on at Giant Stadium, 10 million people see it. If a new car is launched, maybe 1 million people see it. Yeah. The visibility, we need to get back out there and lead, and I can't wait till we can get back out there and lead.
Wait, before we go to Ben, does anybody else have any really good ideas that you want to share before we get to Ben?
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Great call.
All right, Ben, away you go.
Listen, a lot of great ideas. I'll just try to maybe put some words around what's been said. First and foremost, plan, protect, defend your community, and think about what your community means. It's you, it's the people in your house, it's your mom, it's your dad, it's your coworkers, it's the people who should be pushing cases on the Eagle show tonight who aren't. There's 250,000 restaurant workers in New York City right now trying to figure out how to feed their families. It's everyone. And think about what that means. And that's true for companies and people. Cash is oxygen. Figure out where it's coming from, whether it's the SBA or other resources. So that's step one. Stabilize to the new normal, whatever that looks like for you today, knowing that the new normal is going to be different maybe 3 hours from now or tomorrow, but plan so that that's flexible enough. And then, as we've been saying, don't just play defense, play offense, right? How are we going to be better people, better companies, better whatever on day 91? How are we going to be happier, have closer connections, better communication, and enjoy our lives more?
Yeah.
Right?
You said something about restaurant workers that just made me think, are we going to have like a crime problem because pissed off waiters and waitresses are all going to be roaming the streets? Like,
I thought you were going to get political.
With all that added energy and, that kind of thing. No, I'm just being stupid.
I actually saw, and I forget what city it was, but it was on the East Coast, where the police department put out a press release where they asked the criminals to please stop for a while.
Take 30 days off.
No, they really did. They said, look, please.
Day 31, have at it. But until then.
I want to say it was Pittsburgh, but it was a legitimate press release from a police department saying, can you guys please just curtail it?
Yeah.
Just maybe we could start.
Just think.
Maybe we could start on social media spreading this thing where it's going to be 121 days, not 91, not 61. It's going to be 121 days.
No, Marcel, you're going the wrong way, buddy. It's going to be
I'm just saying for the criminals. I'm just saying for the bad people. Tell them, hey, criminals, it's going to be 4.5 months.
What criminal is going to go, oh, okay, all right, I'm in.
Oh, I see the error of my ways. Yeah, sign me up.
Guys,
who knew? That's British law enforcement, isn't it?
Yeah. That's funny. Just be nice. Is there anything else anyone wants to say quickly before we jump here?
Thank you, Marcel, for putting this together.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much.
It's great to see all you guys. I hope you're all safe.
Well, and one final thing, same thing I kind of said at the front end is all of us and everyone in this industry, out of this industry, in this world right now, literally in the world, every business person is making very difficult, very sometimes, against their heart, against everything they believe in. They're making decisions and doing
impossible decisions.
Impossible. Yeah. It's like those old stories where, you've got a raft and it only fits one kid and you've got two kids. Which one do you put in it? How do you make those decisions? Like you can't.
Throw the criminal out.
Yeah, and the priest says, "Do we have time?" No, sorry.
and
That would be rabbi, bro.
That's funny.
Imam, rabbi.
No, but
Yeah.
these are brutal days that we're all going through. These are days when, you know, we wish maybe we were those I can't even say wish we were the freelancers, because they're going through hell. But you know, I wish I only had to make decisions that impacted me and my family, not, you know, another however many people in their families as well, because that is what we're faced with. We're impacting other people's families, not just our own. And that's the tough part. And, you know, I'm with all of you, and I'm here. If anybody has business discussions that you want to have that are really difficult and that are 100% confidential and everything else, I'm here. And I'm not just talking to the 4 other people here. I'm talking to anyone who's listening to this as well.
Count me in.
My phone's open. Featherstone, Wiseman, everyone's phones are open.
Absolutely.
We're here to talk with people. I think we're voices of reason for the most part. And, you know, again, thank you guys for taking your time to do this.
It's great to see all you guys.
Right.
Take
All
care.
right.
Thanks
All
everyone.
right,
Be
gentlemen.
safe. Wash your damn hands.
Thanks a
Stay
bunch,
healthy,
guys.
guys.
Okay, bye.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.